a number of the county chairs as they come on, particularly from these smaller counties that do not join the TRCCA, and you talked about it a lot, and I think that's good. And I found that one of the reasons is because it costs money to join the TRCCA, and I don't have a problem with that.
$50.
And they told me that some of these county chairs and their county parties, because they're small, they're new, we're in developing and we're in new areas and trying to really build them, that we don't have they don't have the funds to do that. And whatever funds they have, they feel like they need to do it right there in their own district. I wondered if RPT, through your committee, would ever consider grants if in a needy situation.
We are putting a big fat donate button on all the county party chair, their websites that Dwayne has been setting up for our less active county chairs. And I think the dues are $50, David, correct? For voting members, they are all a member, but if they want to vote, they have to pay $50. I think we can probably find the money to donate for their membership. I'll write a check. I'm good for one of the county parties. So does that okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, no problem. Next report will be our Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee. Pastor Stephen Broden. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Procure, you're recognized.
Carol Procure, SD 31. I would like to address a little bit of what Mrs. Fountain was talking about on the TRCCA. The small counties are $50 dues, the larger counties. The small counties are $50, and I don't know what the cutoff. I think it's around $10,000 per county, and the larger counties I think are $100. So it's not a burdensome amount. The all county chairs are members of the TRCCA, but only the dues-paying members are allowed to vote and participate as voting members at the meetings. But most of the counties that I've talked to, it's not a matter of the funding, it's just a matter of the interest in getting involved in voting. And I think that it would be great if those that do have, in fact, the TRCCA has a scholarship, what we call a scholarship fund, that helps those counties that aren't able to pay their dues for various reasons. So really, I think would be a generous donation from the SREC, but I do not think it's necessary that the SREC address that situation with monetary funds.
Thank you, Mr. Procure. Auxiliaries and Coalitions, Pastor Stephen Broden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to acknowledge first our team, all who are on the auxiliary and coalition. Would you please stand? Remain standing, please. Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing an outstanding group of conservative Republicans. Say amen. All right. When you hear something like it, you say, wow, that's great. And it is indeed great. Especially I want to acknowledge Dave and Sean, who have worked beside me to hold the group together, and they're doing a great job. Chairman West and fellow SREC committee members, I am pleased to provide you with the report of the Auxiliaries and Coalition Committee. First, the committee has been focused on our responsibility under the bylaws to determine whether our auxiliaries and coalitions are in a good standing. The following organizations have been determined to be in good standing based upon ongoing discussions with the committee. The Texas Asian Republican Assembly. Would you stand, please, as I call your name? Okay. Texas Federation of College Republicans, and the Texas Young Republicans, and Texas Republican Liberty Caucus. Okay, thank you so much. The committee is continuing our work to determine whether our remaining auxiliaries from the past SREC remains in good standing. And we anticipate returning to the SREC during the first quarter. These groups are the High School Republicans of Texas. We have yet to make contact with them. We're still trying to do that. The National Federation of Pachyderms, the MLK Association, the Texas Republican Assembly, and the Texas Republican County Chair Association. We're in contact with them now, and we are trying to determine their status at this time. We will continue to do that, and we'll have a report for you next quarter. The committee recommends that the SREC vote to endorse the designation of the TARA, the TXFCR, the TYR as 2022 auxiliaries. And that's our recommendation to you, and we'll put that forth in a motion. The committee recommends that the SREC vote to endorse the designation of these organizations. Second, the committee has, based on requests from the Texas Federation of Republican Women and the Texas Republican County Chair Associations, we have drafted a bylaw amendment to establish a partnership status. This new designation would provide another avenue for conservative organizations to better coordinate their activities with the RPT and the SREC, and our existing roster of auxiliaries and coalitions, and ultimately amplify their impact. We currently envision our partners to remain so in perpetuity, and as such, we propose that they be held to a higher standard, fully supportive of our party's priority and platforms, and simply in agreement is not the kind of position that we recommend that they take at this time, but a more supportive role if this is in fact passed. The committee has voted to refer this to bylaws as an amendment to the Rules Committee. On behalf of the committee, I move the adoption of the following: that we designate TARA, TXFCR, TYR as 2020 and 2022 RPT auxiliaries. Designate TXRLC as a 2020-22 RPT coalition. Respectfully presented by the Auxiliary Committee and Pastor Broughton as the chair. That's our motion rather to do that, and we'll turn it over to you.
There's been a motion that has been made. I was not fast enough in writing it down. Is there a second to this motion? Say again? Okay. All right, no seconds required. I owe y'all 10 more push-ups. Do it on.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm not in a good mood right now. No, go ahead, sorry.
Rolando Garcia, SD15.
You're recognized, Mr. Garcia.
Can I move to table this report, since we do have a bylaws debate coming up on whether this committee should even exist? I think it would be better to table this until we have that debate.
The correct motion would be to postpone.
I'm sorry, to postpone then. I would move to postpone this report until after the bylaws debate.
Is there a second to this motion? There has been a motion and it has been seconded to postpone this motion from the Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee until a later date after the Rules Committee discusses the bylaws. We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. We will do it by standing vote. All those in favor of the motion to postpone the motion of the Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee, please rise. You may be seated. All those against the motion to postpone, please rise. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. This motion will be postponed until a later date with the Rules Committee. Any further? Later time, later date. Next, we will have the Resolutions Committee. Ms. Jerry Fisher.
Chris, where are you when I need you? Where's my step stool? I don't know. But can you hear me? That's all that counts. First of all, we are not conceding. We are not conceding. And I would like to thank all of y'all who submitted 11 resolutions, which gave my committee a ton of work. If my committee, please stand up because you deserve it. And add that, Virgil Cruz, stand up. And Ashley Bechtold, stand up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because of them, we went from 11 resolutions to 7. Yes, and it was a long day. So our first resolution was expressing disagreement with a member. We had 4 resolutions on this one, and my committee consolidated it down to 1 resolution. It was amended and passed unanimous. Do you want to present this to see if it? So do I just need to Fair Force, or you want the whole thing read? Yes. Y'all received the updated resolution? I thought they sent it out. Whereas it was sent out, therefore be it resolved that the State Republican Executive Committee calls upon Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch, State Republican Executive Committee woman from Senatorial District 19, to publicly apologize for her endorsement of a Democrat incumbent against a well-known and respected Republican challenger, or resign from the SREC.
The resolution has been presented. I recognize Ms. Tanya Robertson.
Tanya Robertson, SD 11, point of inquiry, Mr. Chairman. How many resolutions were sent from county parties in that Senate district?
4.
And were there, in those particular resolutions, were there any action items that were aimed at the SREC or the Republican Party of Texas taking on the committee woman? Did the resolutions from these county parties actually instruct us to do something?
Yes. And of course, I don't have the old ones. I have the one we came down. Who can, on the committee, who can address that? Who is working on that? Because we had 3 actions on it. I don't have mine.
And if I may expand on that question a little bit, it's because we're a grassroots organization. I would like to, you know, actually adhere to what the grassroots want, you know, instead of a top-down, you know, the state party imposing these actions. I'd like to make sure that it was the county parties that were instructing us to do these things.
I think what you're asking, Ms. Robertson, is there were, for instance, the Atascosa County Republican Party had 3 items.
Yes, sir.
Are you requesting
Action
me?
items. Yes, sir.
Are you requesting me to read these items?
No, sir. Just if they align with what is being presented today.
Number 1 and number 2 from Atascosa County do,
Okay. And
as well as number 3.
Okay. And how many counties are in the Senate district?
I believe 4. No, 3, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. What we got were, I was confused. Resolutions that we got were 4.
Right.
But I don't know how many total.
19 total?
19
No, that's
counties?
SB 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Harper, you recognize?
Terry Harper, SD 21. Since Marion Knowlton.
Are you for or against?
I'm sorry, sir.
For or against?
I am speaking for.
Okay.
Since Marion Knowlton was a party to this action, she had hip surgery last week. She asked me to present a letter for her. It says, "Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee, to address through Committeeman Harper. He representing many of the counties in House District 21 has been involved with me and counties of House D 31 since Dr. Lynch, SD 19 committeewoman, endorsed my Democrat opponent and is remarkably familiar with my experience. My comments and observations are brief. My decision to run for state representative was based on 3 primary situations. The first was that I was asked by a Republican living in Starr County who felt the county needed an experienced and capable outsider to challenge the 17-year incumbent who was deeply entrenched within the Patron system, so prevalent in many South Texas counties. Secondly, I was encouraged by a Republican activist from North Texas who felt that I had the courage and capability to undertake such a race. Third, I was embraced by the party initiative that said let no Democrat go unchallenged, and declare my candidacy against the Democrat who had not had a Republican challenger since 2012. Our campaign worked hard. We crossed the district, visited every county in the district, engaged with many people who welcomed the Republican message that we brought them. We increased our margin of support by almost 9% from 2012, the last one of which incumbent was challenged by a Republican. There were many positive improvements in the district that resulted from our race, and for that matter, from the efforts by other Republicans challenging South Texas Democrats. We saw active engagement between Hispanics and Anglos in this majority district. There is no surprise here. Anglos and Hispanics have been interacting together in South Texas for generations. They do business together. They marry each other. Their families celebrate.
Sir, your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bro, you recognize? Are you speaking for or against?
I'd like to suggest an amendment. I'd move to amend striking or resign from and replace with be censured by the SREC.
There's a motion to amend the resolution of striking the language resign from the SREC and be replaced by be censored by the SREC. Is there a second to this motion?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harper.
I do not believe this resolution falls under that rule. I believe it's an out of order amendment.
Sir. Stand at ease. What we're checking on is by Rule 44, the SREC is not able to censure. So what we're looking at is through Robert's rules to see if we're permitted. Under Robert's rules, the motion is permitted.
The motion to amend.
Yes, it is permitted under Robert's rules. Is there a second to the motion of Mr. Bro? The motion has been seconded. Are we ready for the question? Is there any debate? Are you for or
Wiley,
against, are you for or against the amendment?
Senate District 12, David Wiley, I'm against the motion. At this point, we are moving away. At this point, we're moving away from the requests that were sent to us by the county resolutions. None of them mentioned censure. They all specifically expressed that she apologized, stepped down, and just stopped doing what she was doing, but none of them mentioned censure. For us to introduce that at this point would be taking it upon ourselves and not responding to the requests from the representative counties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley.
I'd like to speak in favor, sir.
Mr. Harper, you're recognized. Are you for or
I
against?
remove my second, please, sir.
Mr. Harper removes his second. Is there a second for this motion to amend? Hearing none, then this amendment does not pass.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Does the party have the abilities to discipline a member outside of Rule 44?
By Robert's rules, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
We're back to the original resolution because this motion did not pass. So we're back to the original resolution. Ms. Arredondo Lynch, you are recognized. Are you speaking for or against the resolution?
well, sir, I have a question about this. You said you had 4 resolutions. I'd like to know which counties sent in these resolutions, because after all, it involves me, and I would like to know if Atascosa County was included in that one.
They were. Yes, Atascosa County was included.
Sir, from my understanding, they were having illegal meetings, and you were asked to remove that. And to my understanding, you had removed that. I'm not sure if you did or not.
Upon further review with the parliamentarian, the bylaws of Atascosa County says that the chairman or the secretary is allowed to call a meeting as long as you have 15% of the precinct chairs that come together and request that meeting. They had 50% of the precinct chairs, and so they were able to go to the secretary who did call the meeting, so they did operate within their bylaws.
Will I be allowed to address this body?
You are allowed to address this body. Are you for or against this resolution?
I'm against that resolution.
You
but
have 2 minutes.
I was going to ask to suspend the rules for me to be able to speak to the group. I mean, after all, I'm being censured, or whatever you guys are planning on doing. I think that you need to let me explain. And I would like to ask for the suspension of rules. Give me at least 5 minutes.
Are you making a motion that we suspend the rules?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to that motion? It has been so moved and seconded that we suspend the rules of 2 minutes to speak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? In the summation of the chair, the ayes have it. I think it's 10 minutes, correct? Oh, I asked for 5? Okay. You have 5 minutes.
Sir, may I approach the podium? I don't have a silver spoon tongue, and I cannot cut a pound of butter, frozen butter, so bear with me. I am the oldest of 10 children who grew up in a 1-bedroom home with a dust floor kitchen. I was the first migrant farm worker to graduate from dental school from one of the poorest counties in the nation. I come from Starr County. I am an American Tejana with rich Mexican heritage, born in the Spanish land grant that was deeded to our family or our ancestors back in 1763. The border crossed us. We didn't cross the border. My great-great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War for the Union side. 6 months later, he deserted and joined the Confederacy. He was also a state police officer after the Civil War. I was a migrant farm worker who traveled to California. I picked your grapes, your garlic, your tomatoes, and carrots that you found on your tables. I had my books and my assignments mailed to me in California, where I would mail my homework back because I did not want to get behind. I am very, very familiar with HD 31, SD 19, and CD 23. I have traveled over 8,000 miles since March 2020, and my truck has over 299,000 miles. As a Republican member and former chair of Zapata County, I have founded chairs, both for my home county, Uvalde, Zavala, and I have to credit Romel Lopez for bringing Alfredo into the fold from Maverick County. At this time, he was 17 years old. I approached Alfredo and asked him if he would like to be our chairman for Maverick County, that he would be our youngest chair. And on December the 8th, 2018, he became our youngest chair in the state of Texas. I donated funds to Alfredo to reestablish the party, and the rest is history. I found the chair for Zavala County during one of my meet and greets for Rachel Malone and Peter Flores, 12 counties and 70 people were present. I gave Rachel Malone some of my money from my personal funds for her travels, and Skylar Blakelock became one of our county chairs for Zavala County. Again, I donated funds to start that Republican Party in Zavala County. Zavala County is a hometown for the Castro brothers' mom, where La Raza was born. We saw a remarkable number of Republican voters turn out in Zavala County on November the 3rd, 2020. Over 1,000 Republicans voted in Zavala County. With a combined effort of Maverick County, I coordinated the Texas Trump border train parade, which we went through 6 counties, 300 cars were involved, 16 miles long. Our parade was 16 miles long and traveled close to 200 miles. I traveled from Wink, Texas, near the New Mexico border, to Starr County, my home county, on the Mexican border. I've distributed over 300 Trump signs, Cornyn and Yanta and Gonzalez signs. We saw the biggest swings in 2 counties, and I was partially responsible for that swing. 55.2% for Starr County, 46.3% for Maverick County. But it did not translate to ballots in Starr County and South Texas. I have worked for the Republican Party. While normal people were sleeping, I was delivering signs to Alfredo at midnight in my office. I was also delivering signs at 3:30 in the morning in the parking lots of the the Holiday Inn in Fort Stockton. When I look around here, I doubt any of you, with the exception of 2 to 3 people, could go into the 5th Ward in Houston and make an impact, any more than any of you could go to South Texas and make that kind of an impact. And the reason I'm telling you this is because we don't have a presence in South Texas. That vote that you saw in South Texas, as a Republican, it was President Trump who turned that. And I am here to implore to you that we must make inroads in South Texas by establishing and opening up Republican offices in those counties where we don't have any. Spend the resources, bring the people there, but do not put young people there who do not understand the area. So before there was a George Floyd, there was my father. He had Texas Rangers cowboy boots on his head and body that sent my father and other 3 men to the hospital in McAllen, Texas, because he fought for what he believed. I am here in this party because I am fighting to bring you all to South Texas. No Republican Party has gone down there to... Well, thank you very much, and I would appreciate it. And I will not resign. I will stay here, and I will make the difference. Whether you all work with me or not, I will work in the background, but I will not resign. Thank you.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McDonald, you're recognized.
Dr. Alma, I thank Dr. Alma for her service. Could Dr. Alma state why she might have endorsed a Democrat over a non-Republican?
I will tell you why I endorsed the Democrat over the Republican. Having gone over all his endorsements, CD 23, SD 19, and HD 31, they were all oil and gas areas, and they're very vital. When he was endorsed by the oil and gas, my family, my people, I say Hispanics, were given the ability to go make money and become taxpayers. They were able to buy land, they were able to have homes, and they were very proud of that. Not only that, but he was also endorsed by the Texas and the Southwest Cattle Raisers Association. CD 23, HD 19, and HD 31, they're all ranching and cattle. And those are very important to all of us. You have a lot of Hispanics that are working in these ranches as vaqueros, you name it. Not only that, but he was also endorsed by the TMPA, which is the Texas Municipal Police Association. That to me means a lot. Also, he was also endorsed by the Combined Law Enforcement Agents or Association of Texas. Now, if he was going to defund the police, defund law enforcement, I don't believe that Mr. Guillen would have been endorsed by them. Not only that, but he was also endorsed by the Texas Alliance for Life. A lot of you sent me messages, very nasty messages. And yes, I responded in kind, and I apologize for that. But when he was endorsed by the Texas Alliance for Life, many of you told me that this was a pro-abortion. My fellow SREC, if you don't vet your candidates and vet who's on these committees and PACs, you have no business telling me that this is an abortion group. Because if it is, then you're going to have to ask Dr. Armstrong to remove himself from the board, because Dr. Robin Armstrong sits on the Texas Alliance for Life board.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Harper, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, this room is full of attorneys. There's quite a few in here. I think
Are you
that
speaking for or against the resolution?
this is for the resolution.
Yes, sir.
There's a room full of attorneys in here. I think every one of them will agree that a person's upbringing and family lifestyle is not a defense of any crime or breaking of rules. Secondly, since we suspended the time limit for the doctor to have her say, Mary Ann Knowlton has asked that we also suspend the time limit so that we may finish reading her letter.
I will take the point of personal privilege, and I will allow that to happen.
Thank you so much. She has asked that Naomi Narvaez finish reading the letter.
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. The letter continues. We saw active engagement between Hispanics and Anglos in this minority-majority district. There is no surprise here. Anglos and Hispanics have been interacting together in South Texas for generations. Example, they do business together, they marry each other, their families celebrate holidays together, they belong to the same civic organizations, they go to school together, play sports together, they are neighbors, and they like each other. Dr. Lynch's attempt to segregate the community, saying that the Democrat incumbent spoke the language, was an insult to the residents of House District 31 counties. As far as they are concerned, I, Mary Ann Knowlton, spoke their language, the language of personal freedom and responsibility, the language of less government, the language of First and Second Amendment rights, the language that is pro-life, the language that is espoused in the platform of the Republican Party of Texas. The Republican Party showed up in South Texas. Stewart and I spent Election Day in Rio Grande City in Starr County sharing a campaign tent with other conservatives. I was told I was the first Republican to be in Starr County on Election Day since 1906. Chairman West attended an event in Rio and other counties along the border. Terry Harper, the SD committee man for the area, spent a lot of time in those counties encouraging and assisting the new activists with the growing pains associated with party growth. Republicans showed up during this campaign cycle and showed that we care about South Texas, that we have more things in common than not, and we want the same things and can work together to achieve those goals. Out of this race, we wound up with new Republican county chairmen in several counties and parties in other counties that are all ready for lessons in Party Growth 101. To that end, precinct chairman and party growth training will take place in Atascosa County at the end of January. Committee chair and former vice chairman of the Atascosa County Republican Party, Alma Jackson, will participate as a lead trainer, and we will have attendees from 8 to 10 counties to include folks from SD 21, SD 19, and HD 31, repeating what we did in Uvalde in January 2019. In short, the campaign in HD 31 accomplished much, even though we did not win the Republican state representative office. The biggest disgrace in Dr. Lynch endorsing the Democrat was that her endorsement, one, undermined the efforts to recruit Republican volunteers and candidates in the district. How can the SREC and other Republican groups encourage folks to step up to become Republican precinct chairman, county chairman, and candidates if they can be expected to be cut off at the knees by one of their own Republican colleagues who makes a personal assessment in a public statement? 2, her endorsement also insulted the grassroots activists and HD 31 rates that gave their time and financial resources to support our campaign. Her action gave the message that she knew better what was best for the voters in HD 31 than they did, and their opinions had little worth. This is not the way to grow the party. The opportunities for the growth of the Republican Party in South Texas are tremendous, but we must work together and focus on those things that unite us, of which there are many. I appreciate the support so many of you have given to me during the campaign. I stand with you in continuing our battle to maintain our conservative values in Texas. With God's help and His grace, we will. Thank you, Marion Knowlton, Precinct Chair, Atascosa County, former SREC SD 19, former Chairman, Atascosa County Republican Party. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Procure?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carol Procure, SD 31.
You speaking for or against?
I would like to amend the resolution,
Okay.
if I may.
Your
I would
amendment?
like to add at the bottom, therefore be it further resolved that should Mrs. Arredondo Lynch refuse to resign, that the chair remove her from all committees that she has been assigned to.
I'm just writing it down so I have it. It has been so moved and seconded that at the end it should read, therefore be it further resolved that should Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch refuse to resign, that the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas remove Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch from all of her committee assignments. Am I correct with that motion? And it has been seconded? Yes? According to Robert's rules, this is an amendment of something that has been previously established. Her committee chairman, her committee participation, that requires a 2/3 vote. Are we ready for the question? The question is, on an amendment to the resolution expressing disagreement with a member's action, that it reads at the end, therefore be it further resolved that should Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch, State Republican Executive Committee woman from Senatorial District 19, refuse to resign, that the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas remove Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch from her committee assignments. All those in favor, a correction. We have to do this by your clicker vote, so please open it up for vote. Are we ready to vote? Voting is open.
Sorry, I blinked. Did we, Steve Atwell, SD9, did we have discussion on this particular amendment? We did? Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I blinked and missed
no
it.
problem.
Thank you.
The voting is open. Correct. 1B. 1A is for yes, 2B is for no. As far as who has not voted? Yes. Deborah Fight. Point at that screen over there. Voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The voting is closed. Remember, this takes 2/3 majority.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Matt Patrick,
You're
SC16.
recognized.
Could I ask if we could arrange for the list of SD members to be displayed on the screen so we can tell whether or not our vote has been cast before we close vote?
Yeah, they're having
It's
the
possible.
technical difficulties. We're
Okay,
doing
all
the
right.
best.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. We'll stand at ease until we get the results.
Seven no, one abstain, and that's on the amendment.
The results of the vote are 54 yes for the amendment, 7 no, and 1 abstain. Therefore, the amendment carries. The resolution will now read at the end. Therefore, be it further resolved that should Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch refuse to resign, that the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas remove Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch from her committee assignments. Yes, Mr. Norred, are you speaking for or against this resolution, amended resolution?
I'm speaking in favor of the resolution. Thank you, Chair Warren. Norred, SD10. And I'm going to face you because that's what we're supposed to be doing when we talk to everybody. I rise in favor of this because the member made a mistake, and the member made a bad mistake. But it's not a death-defying, horrible mistake that a lot of us have made before. There are a lot of people that are in SD in this room who refuse to endorse because they know that their words carry weight and will not endorse in a primary. If we're not going to do that, now some of us do, some of us don't. The point is that when we speak as an SREC member, we speak as part of the team. We're wearing the jersey. Now, the Democrat that won that race, had he had a closer race, might have considered maybe I ought to look at the Republican Party a little closer. Maybe he should join us. But because of this, the way it went, he doesn't feel like he's going to be welcome here. Just like our SREC member probably is feeling the heat, and she should feel the heat for what she did. But it's not a death penalty crime. It's not a crime. Okay, it's just a mistake. It's just a judgment call of somebody who's hasn't been here very long, even though she's clearly done great work in her part of the area and ought to be commended for that. So she made a mistake. We hit her with this, and we go on our business. But what I hope that she comes away with this experience understanding is if you're going to wear this jersey, there are rules to it. This jersey matters. And I'm friends with a lot of my opposing counsel in the courtroom. I don't have beers with them very often, but I could. But that doesn't mean that I give them a leg up in litigation. So we don't encourage the other side by our actual actions. We should remain at all times, remembering that our highest authority, of course, is to God and to act like Christians. Even if you're not a Christian, you should act like a Christian. That's part of the thing. So, and so we can disagree with people without saying you should hit a criminal offense. But I do rise, and I think we ought to pass this. Thank you.
There have been 3 individuals that have spoken for this resolution, so therefore no one else can speak for the resolution. Mr. Bro, do you rise to speak against this resolution?
I call the question, Mr. Chair.
Point of information, Ms. Sinclair?
Is it specified in our bylaws whether a county chair or SREC may or may not endorse a Democrat and what are the repercussions?
It is this. Oh, the question was, does it specify that a member of this body can not endorse of a... In the third whereas, in this resolution, it says, whereas the 20 to 2022 SREC bylaws list the purposes of the SREC, one of which is to foster and encourage growth in the party by promoting the principles as expressed in the platform, planks, and legislative priorities, and by electing Republican office holders. And question has been called on the resolution expressing disagreement with a member's action. This will be a recorded vote on your clicker. 1A is yes to support the resolution. 2B is no to vote against the resolution. Oh, I'm sorry. Trying to hurry up so I can see the Army-Navy game. No, I'm just kidding. Is there a motion to close debate on this resolution? Okay. Seconded? Okay, all right. Well, then why y'all make me do push-ups? Y'all just like to see me do push-ups, you know? Bunch of racists. That's just a joke. All in favor of closing the debate, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Debate is closed. Now the vote is on the resolution expressing disagreement with the member's action. This vote will be done by your electronic clickers. 1A is yes. 2B is no against the resolution. The voting is open. The voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The voting is now closed. Yeas, 1 nay. Now, according to this resolution, Dr. Lynch, I am offering you the ability.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I will not apologize. Thank you.
Therefore, as according to this resolution, do you resign from the State Republican Executive Committee?
No, sir, I will not resign because I do not violate any of the planks or principles. Thank you.
Therefore, based upon the passing of this resolution 61-1, you are hereby removed from all of your committee assignments.
Okay, our next resolution, and if there's no objections, I will just read the therefore. And this resolution is to open our Texas Capitol without restrictions. Therefore, be it resolved that the Republican Party of Texas strongly encourages the members of the Texas Preservation Board and Texas legislators to refrain from limiting Texans from physically participating without restrictions in the 87th legislative session. This resolution shall be distributed to all members of the Texas Preservation Governing Board and Republican members of the Texas legislature.
Mr. Bro, you're recognized.
I would like
Are
to
you
make an
speaking
amendment.
for or against? Oh, okay. Your
I would like
amendment?
to strike strongly encourages and replace with demands.
Okay, which hold on, which paragraph?
No, it's right here on the resolve, on the resolve.
Okay.
Demands instead of strongly encourages. It's in the
Okay. The motion has been moved and seconded to change the language of the resolution, open our Texas Capitol without restrictions, from in the therefore be it resolved paragraph, from strongly encourages to demands. Are we ready for the question?
I'd like to speak in favor, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't ask permission. I demand that they open my state. 100%, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bro. Mr. Covey?
Yes, sir. David Covey, SD3, and I'd like to speak in favor. It is an important role of the grassroots to be able to come together before their legislators, and any limitation on their physical presence will encourage the legislators to go more rogue than is already their tendency. So the ability for the grassroots to personally show up is vitally important to the good of the Republican Party and to our platform priorities. So strongly encourage the members to support this.
Is there any further debate on this amendment to the resolution? We will do this by a voice vote. All those in favor of amending the resolution to strike the word strongly encourages to demands signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Then the amendment passes. The resolution will be amended to say demands and not strongly encourages. Any further? Yes, sir. You're recognized.
I'd like to propose an amendment, add the word further. Right now we have to go through security and certain items that can be dangerous or not allowed. They're non-COVID related. And rather than try to get more complicated,
Can you tell me which
I think I'd like
paragraph?
to clarify from further, to refrain from, or we demand that they, I don't see the amended up there. We demand, from further limiting Texans from physically participating. I mean, right now there's certain items that are dangerous you can't take in. You go through metal detectors. If I read it the way it's currently written, we want them to stop any limitations from entering. which means people could bring in all sorts of things that they maybe currently can't, and it's not a COVID-related restriction.
What number?
In the therefore be it resolved.
Oh,
Second line. We demand the text, from further limiting.
from further limiting.
Yeah. That would allow the current restrictions to still be there. If we read it as it is in this plain language, we want people to be able to enter with guns, with whatever, right now you can if you have a license, which is good, but you could bring in banners, which typically aren't allowed in the chambers. You can bring in loudspeakers, all sorts of things that are currently not allowed. If we pass it as currently worded, we're removing any restrictions. People could bring in noisemakers, they could bring in whatever they want, if I read it that way.
Mr. Patrick, are you rising for or against this amendment?
Sorry, point of clarification, please. With this change, I'm not sure when it says further.
From
what
further
the starting
limiting.
point. Now, what the starting point from further is it prior to the implementation of the COVID restrictions or after the implementation of the COVID
I think what the
restrictions?
gentleman is saying is that the limitations that are currently in existing stay in existence, but no further limitations from those established currently, right?
Yes, sir, I understand, but they've already put the limitations in place. Well, have they or have they not? So.
It's my understanding that rules for the Capitol are set at the beginning of session and by other entities since the Capitol's been closed. When they reopen, the limitations that were put in place pre-COVID would be what's in effect. So that's what I want is no COVID. I was trying to think of an easy way to rephrase it, but yeah, no COVID-related restrictions on entering the Capitol. I just couldn't think fast enough where to put that, but that's the intent. Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Robertson, you rising for or against this amendment? Oh, there was a second, and I did hear one. Or was there not a second to this amendment? Okay, Ms. Holt has seconded it. Okay.
Tanya Robertson, SD 11, I rise opposing this amendment. The restrictions that we're talking about are implied earlier, further up in the resolution. I think they're pretty clear.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson. Ms. Stannard, are you for or against this, rise for or against this amendment?
I am for, but I agree with the gentleman who spoke and said that we need to further refine what we mean here. I agree with that, and I'd like to propose an amendment.
Okay. Amendment to the amendment. And your amendment?
Would be to strike to refrain from further limiting and add to return to the valid limitations as we experienced before the restrictions that were added in 2020.
Okay, slow down. To return to pre-COVID? Are you saying pre-COVID?
Oh, instead of, I'm getting some suggestion here. I apologize. I'm doing this on the fly. I apologize. Help me here, David. To return to?
You have a lifeline. Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm granting you a lifeline.
So I think if we just if we didn't
we don't do that in this party.
If we just at the end of that sentence, I think we just put due to COVID. We're trying to prevent COVID restrictions for breathing and that kind of thing. So instead of striking anything, just leave I mean, I don't know that the further does anything, but at the end of that sentence, just do due to COVID-19, and you're done. anything related, a restriction based on that.
So it would read, therefore be it resolved that the Republican Party of Texas demands the members of the Texas Preservation Board and Texas legislators refrain from further limiting Texans from physically participating without restrictions. That's where it goes. Due to COVID in the 87th legislative session. To refrain from limiting, I'm eliminating further, from limiting Texans from physically participating without restrictions due to COVID in the 87th legislative session.
Dude.
She's gone berserk. The amendment was to insert the word further.
Check.
The amendment to the amendment ought to deal with this further, and she's all over it now.
Okay.
So why don't we say it's not in order at this time?
From the parliamentarian, he's saying that it's not in order this time to add new language. If you want to make an amendment, it's an amendment to strike the word further, which is the amendment that was previously on the table.
Is it in order for me to withdraw my amendment and move
The
on?
gentleman withdraws his amendment to add in the word further limiting, so. Calling the question on Ms. Stannard's amendment. Oh, no, I thought it was his is no longer on the floor, Mr. Fairbrother. Okay. The question is on the resolution. Open our Texas Capitol without restrictions. It has been changed and therefore be it resolved paragraph that the Republican Party of Texas demands the members of the Texas Preservation Board and Texas legislators to refrain from limiting Texans from physically participating without restrictions in the 87th legislative session. This resolution shall be distributed to all members of the Texas Preservation Governing Board and Republican members of the Texas legislature. Are we ready to accept voting? Okay, we're voting on calling the question, ending the debate. All those in favor of ending the debate say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Now we will vote on the resolution opening our Texas Capitol without restrictions. Using your clickers. 1A is for the resolution, 2B is against the resolution. Voting is now open. Joe Miller, Edie Sinclair. Who? Proxy for Leslie Thomas. Voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Voting is now closed. There are 58 yea votes, 3 nay votes. The resolution passes.
Our next resolution is regarding medical freedom and individual liberty. No objection, I'll read this. Therefore, be it resolved that the Republican Party of Texas calls upon our state legislature and Texas congressional delegation to protect these fundamental medical rights at a time when our liberties are most at risk. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to all Republican members of the Texas legislature, our Texas Republican members of Congress, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Is there any discussion, debate on this resolution? Hearing none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of the resolution, use your electronic devices. 1A is yay. 2B is a vote against the resolution. Voting is now open. No? I'm a little too quick. Voting is open. Voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Voting is closed. The resolution passes with 53 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 abstain.
Our next resolution was selection of the Speaker of the House. There is no motion taken to consider this resolution since it was addressed in September. I'm sorry, Scott.
Is there any debate on the resolution before the body? Mr. Apley.
H. Scott Apley, SD11. I offer an amendment, which I emailed to Brandon. And before we go any further, I'd like to highlight that I brought a note to exclude me from any possible physical activity that might result in liability to the party.
Is that like in Welcome Back, Kotter, you had Epstein's mom that wrote a note?
Do I need to enter this for the record with the secretary?
That's good.
Mr. Chairman, does he have a push-up proxy on file?
That is true.
Was that a volunteer?
What is your, do you?
Did you get the email I sent? It's replacing, so it's resolution.
Can you give me the language? Do they have it up? It's the resolution congratulating Dade Phelan on his selection as the endorsed speaker candidate of the Texas House Republican Caucus.
Okay, that therefore be it resolved that the Republican Party of Texas congratulates Dade Phelan on his selection as the endorsed speaker candidate of the Texas House Republican Caucus. And be it resolved that this is the official position of the Republican Party of Texas, that it desires to work with Representative Phelan in a positive, productive, and collaborative manner to advance the platform and legislative priorities of the Republican Party of Texas.
No. I cannot very easily see this from the side, so could you read the amended language, please?
It looks like his first therefore is the same as the existing first therefore, and his second therefore is what's new.
Okay, so the second, be it further resolved, that seems to be different. That's the amendment?
There is some rewording in the first, therefore be it resolved, just to clean up language.
Is there a second to this one? Okay. The motion has been so moved and second. Is there any debate?
I'd like to speak on my.
You can speak for.
Mr. Chairman?
So,
pardon me, point of information.
Yes.
Can we have the screen expanded a little bit?
Can
Those
you
old ones that
can you
those of
expand the
us-
screen?
Yeah. Those are of us that on that back row old and kind of blind, we can't see it very well.
Do you have a note like Mr. Apley? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the pretext to this entire resolution, as one of my colleagues mentioned in our committee meeting yesterday, sometimes there's a lot more being said than what's actually being said in the resolution. And I know that there's a lot of discussion, around the entire state, within the entire Republican Party, that who ultimately becomes the speaker is actually of second most importance. The most important thing is that speaker and our Republican members work to advance our Republican principles. And so in the past, there has been a huge level of frustration and disappointment that we have not achieved the legislative victories that represent the priorities of our party. And so I do think it is important to acknowledge that this method of selecting the speaker was followed in accordance with our platform. And I do appreciate that. But furthermore, I think that it's important that not only are we congratulating Dade Phelan in potentially being the presumptive speaker, but that we have expectations as a party that speakership result in the passage of our legislative priorities. And therefore, this amendment, to me, is the difference between making this resolution palatable or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Apley. Mr. Breaux, you rise for or against this
I
amendment?
have a point of information.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, initially there was a little bit of, I'm going to say bad blood. Have you or your office reached out to Representative Phelan to kind of clear the air? Have you patched it? Is it none of my business? I think the body would like to know that you guys are on speaking terms, or at least not swinging at each other. Thank you.
I never swing at anybody. I have not spoken to Mr. Phelan, and my statement was based upon the fact that 2 days after the election, he came out and showed a list of 35 to 37 Democrats that were supporting him to be the Speaker of the House. We have now gone through the Texas Republican caucus, and they have supported him. I have no problems with that, and I think that the most important thing is that we get our legislative priorities passed.
Warren Nord, SC10.
Are you rising for or against the?
Rising in favor, and if I can call the question, but we do have another amendment to this in the whereases that adds some lightening to this as well, because the chair was not the only person that had some questions about this. There are a lot of SREC members that had something to say about this. Anyway, I support it.
One more in favor. That's it for those for this.
Rolando Garcia, SD15. This was the most hotly debated resolution from the Resolutions Committee yesterday. I think it passed like 5-4. And I think this amendment dramatically improves it. It goes from something that would have been perceived as an attack on the chair to something that is saying we need to support our legislative priorities. And I think this is the right approach, rather than trying to get, whatever happened in the past, as a previous member said, is behind us. And the resolution, as it came out of committee, was basically, yay, Dade Phelan, which I think is totally the wrong approach, and it's totally the wrong optics. But with this amendment, we say we recognize that Mr. Phelan is the choice of the caucus, and we want to work with him on these priorities. So it turns what would have been a very embarrassing resolution for this body into something that I think is more helpful and productive.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of information.
Yes.
As one of the authors of this. There was zero intent at any point to be castigating or chastising or implying things that are being said without written or saying, yay, Mr. Phelan, or anything like that. There was a great deal of confusion. There was a great deal of division because there was a misunderstanding of what the issue was before. The conditions at the time were he did not meet that burden. Okay, we had support from Democrats. Since that time, it has changed. The chairman and other people's statements were based upon that burden not being met. Now that that has changed, this would be the case and this would be a viable option. That's what the intent was. It was not to, I think the word was slap somebody in the face or put anybody on the spot, nothing like that. But there's something called a multi-front war that's very hard to win. And with the legislative session due to begin, it might be a good idea to present that clarity and to not start it off with a multi-front war, battling against our own speaker, our own folks, and the Democrats. Ask Napoleon, didn't go very well.
The parliamentarian has reminded me that it has gone from point of information to request for information. That means a question of clarification to the chair. We are no longer debating on this resolution. Is there any other discussion on this resolution? Are we ready to end the debate? The question has been called. All those in favor of ending the debate on this resolution signify by saying aye. Oh, on the amendment, I'm sorry, on the amendment, yes. All those opposed? The amendment carries. I mean, ending the debate. Okay, I got you. Ending the debate. I'm sorry. It has now been amended, and now we will vote on the resolution congratulating Dave Phelan on his selection as the endorsed speaker. Okay.
You get credit from last time. You get credit from last time.
You know, folks, you got to understand, it was just 6 months ago I was thrown from a motorcycle at 75 miles per hour. Okay.
Remember,
I don't think that fast.
a single member can't close debate. He didn't have a second. We didn't take a two-thirds vote. So we don't have to vote on closing debate.
We don't have to vote on closing the debate. Thank you. It really did hurt. All right. Now we must vote. We voted on the amendment? Okay, we're voting on the amendment to the resolution. So all those in favor of the amendment to the resolution as you read here before you signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? In the eyes of the chairman, the ayes have it. The amendment carries to this resolution. Yes, Mr. Norred.
Mr. Chair, I rise to amend the motion in the whereases. I think that the secretary and his administration can show it to us? Maybe. And while that's happening, I'll go ahead and speak to it. I was concerned, as others were, and I voted in favor in the committee of having this resolution, but the chair was not the only person that spoke strongly on this process. And so a lot of us did, but it's the rough and tumble life. And so now the rough and tumble life is over, and I'm going to tap dance until this wording comes up. But what it basically says is that we talk about these things and we speak strongly, and then we gather the team. We all wear the same jersey, and we go out and fight. That's a summarization that's longer than the actual wording that I'm done talking. Can we get it?
Where's?
I think the phrase is stand at ease.
We will be at ease until your amended language comes up. Is it there? He's gone to the third.
The proposed language adds the highlighted phrase and then two down. The RPT desires to show unified support. Those two clauses or whereases have been added or is proposed. That's all.
Is there any debate on this amendment to the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a second to the motion to amend? Hearing none, the motion does not carry, and Mr. Nord does not take it personally. Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Jason Vaughn, Texas Young Republicans. I was asked to speak in favor of this from our chairman. We're looking forward to a phenomenal session with Speaker Phelan, and I think it's very important that we have the stick, but we also have the carrots. We've got to work both ways. And just remember that whatever the party does, it also affects the auxiliaries and our relationship with everyone. So really appreciate you guys taking this one up and passing this. Thank you very much.
Any further debate on the resolution as amended? Are we ready for the question? The question is on accepting the resolution, the amended resolution, congratulating Dave Phelan on his selection as the endorsed speaker candidate of the Texas House Republican Caucus. This will be done by electronic device. 1A is yay for the resolution, 2B is no for the resolution. Are we ready? Voting? Voting is now open. Susan Wright. You got it. Voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Voting is closed. There are 57 yeas, 6 nays, 0 abstain. The resolution passes. Ms. Stannard, you are recognized.
Gail Stannard, SD 15. I have been reminded, and I'd like to remind others that are having trouble with their voting, that if they will look at their clicker when they push the button, it will show how they have voted, and a green light will come up, and they will know that it's been received.
Thank you, ma'am.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Our last resolution. Yay. Okay. No object. This is resolution on election integrity. Therefore, be it resolved that the Texas State Republican Executive Committee supports President Donald Trump and calls upon the Justice Department to expedite an investigation into the election fraud which threatens our American voice.
Is there any debate on the resolution on election integrity? Seeing no debate. Yes, Mr. Carl.
John Carb, SD 22.
Are you rising for or against this resolution?
I would like to offer an amendment.
Okay, Mr.
I would
Carr.
like to change, I would like to change the words American voice to our constitutional republic.
It has been so moved and seconded to make an amendment to the resolution on election integrity in the last, therefore, paragraph, striking the language American voice to constitutional republic. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of this amendment signify by saying yay. Yay. All those opposed? The yeas have it. The resolution has been amended to strike the words American voice to constitutional republic. Is there any further debate on this resolution? Do you rise for or against the resolution?
Just a point of clarity that that 2R is not supposed to be there. It threats our constitutional republic.
Which threatens our, that's what I have, which threatens our constitutional republic? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Covey, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Covey, SD3, just giving some context. This resolution basically takes wording from a letter which 9 Texas congressmen sent to the Attorney General. So we're reinforcing what our Republican congressional delegation also sent. So I'm speaking in favor of the motion, the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Are we ready for the question? Using your electronic device, 1A is yay for the resolution. 2B is no against the resolution. Stand by. Voting is now open. Are we losing yet? Okay. You rascal. Rhonda Anderson. Morgan Graham. Voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Voting is now closed. The resolution passes with 62 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Merry Christmas.
We will now have the report.
In her report, she said she reduced it from 11 to 7. Have we had 7 resolutions, or have I been sleeping?
No. The other two were not, there was no motion to present them.
Okay, so you only presented 5.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And there was 2 of them that we did not have a motion to continue.
We will now have the report of the Rules Committee. Mr. Steve Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Score is still 0-0 with about 9.5 minutes in the first quarter. If anybody would like to watch the game, we've got it back there in the back. Mr. Chairman, it's my report of the Rules Committee. Our subcommittees met in the interim. We had 2 of the 3 subcommittees, again, from our last report. We're attempting to redraft the bylaws, to clean them up, use some standardized language. Also in our committee, we discussed creating some drafting rules to use for the future for drafting all bylaws so that they're consistent throughout the entire body of work. We took on 2 noticed amendments and 1 ruling of the chair. The first amendment submitted my SD 17 committeewoman Becky Green to add a new subsection 11 to Article 4, Section 2, subsection A. We're going to renumber the bylaws one of these days too. And add new subsection E to Article 7, Section 8, subsection A. It was in your digital packet. Committeewoman Green showed up and testified as to her intent. We debated and deliberated, I think, over 90 minutes on just this bylaw alone. We came to the conclusion that it was going to impact other bylaws and we needed to take some more time. So a motion was made in committee to postpone until the next interim committee meeting, which would be electronic before the next quarterly meeting, and offer some refining language and present this bylaw at the next quarterly report. And Committeewoman Green concurred with this action, so we won't offer that amendment for vote today. Another amendment was presented by SD 15 Committeeman Rolanda Garcia, I apologize if I pronounce that wrong, to strike Article 7, Section 8, subsection E, effectively terminating the Auxiliary and Coalitions Committee. We had testimony from Committeeman Garcia as well as membership from the Auxiliary and Coalitions Committee and a former president of the Texas Young Republicans, and much of that testimony really revolved around restructuring that committee and maybe redefining its purpose. A motion to postpone this amendment was also made to allow the Auxiliary and Coalitions Committee time to evaluate and create a proposal on what they'd like to see that committee do and make a recommendation if they would like to terminate it. The committee recommends no further action on that amendment as well. Finally, Mr. Chairman, there was a ruling you made on the ambiguity of Rule 8P and Rule 42. Quickly, I'll read it to you. There was been some discussion in the interim about what this does. Chairman's ruling, the plain text of RPT Rule number 42 supersedes any inferred ambiguity in RPT Rule number 8P. SREC committee men and committee women are ex officio members of their SD counties executive committees without the right to make motions or vote. Number 2, from RPT Rule number 8P, the county party may adopt rules allowing an SREC member who does not live in the same county to be a non-voting ex officio member. However, the failure of a county executive committee to do so does not prevent SREC members from exercising the rights under RPT Rule number 42 Furthermore, a county executive committee may not adopt rules or bylaws which would restrict SREC members who represent the same county but who reside in a different county from exercising their rights as a non-voting ex official or honorary member. Mr. Chairman, I move that we concur with your ruling. That is the conclusion of my report. Go Navy.
He who speaks last. Do we need to vote on your motion? Okay. Can you repeat it just briefly so that, you know, the ruling of 42 to supersede 8P?
The committee's report in motion is simply to concur with your ruling that's on the screen. Using Rule 42, as Rule 42 supersedes any other rules that modify it.
Mr. Garcia, you're recognized.
Rolando Garcia, SD 15. I had a parliamentary inquiry. To clarify, did we vote earlier this morning to move the noticed bylaws changes to be considered within the rules report, the rules committee report?
Yes, we did.
And so any motion to raise a noticed bylaws amendment would have to occur during this report.
Any notice to?
In order to raise a noticed bylaws amendment would have to be done now during the rules report.
Yes.
Okay. Would now be an appropriate time to do that?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Bro?
Can I move to amend the report?
You may move to amend the report.
Okay.
Is there a second?
The amendment is to accept the noticed bylaws change to eliminate the Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee.
We have a motion on the floor right now to concur with the chairman's ruling. That's
Oh.
the immediately pending motion in regards to.
The immediately pending motion is on the Rule 42 and 8P, so we have to take care of that first, okay? Yes.
Just a point of information, Mr. Chairman, why would a county EC want to restrict an SREC from speaking or being present at their meetings?
Some do that, and I mean, that was brought up to us, and
It
so.
does happen.
Yes.
Right, but the question is,
I can't answer as to why a person would make a decision, you know. Is there any further debate on the Rule 42 8P motion that is on the table now? All those in favor of ending the debate signify by saying aye. All those opposed? What before the body now is to accept the recommendation of the chairman on Rule 42 superseding Rule 8P. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Garcia, would you like to present your motion?
First of all, I'm gonna have to do this quickly, but I want to say that my comments are not a reflection on either the members of the current committee or previous Auxiliary and Coalitions Committee. The problem is not the committee members or the personnel. The problem is systemic and the way the committee and the bylaws are structured, which is why we need to get rid of them. Auxiliaries and coalitions are too important to be relegated to the Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee. And we saw that from their committee report earlier today, in which they're considering a third level of a meaningless symbolic status. That is the model we have now of engaging with outside groups. Apply to one of two, possibly three meaningless symbolic statuses, and if you pass litmus tests, and if we deem you worthy enough, you get the privilege of coming to us 4 times a year and updating us while we smile and nod. Now, I understand, everyone knows this is broken. We've all had conversations about this. The current committee understands there are problems, and they're trying to fix it, and I respect that. But we cannot fix it until we get rid of this structure. We have to stop engaging with outside groups by stop focusing on what meaningless status we can grant them, and move towards a project-based collaborations. You saw that we're already doing that with 150 black men. They didn't have to go before a committee. They didn't have to fill out paperwork to decide which one of 2 or 3 statuses they adhere to, coalition, partnership, or auxiliary. We can do this, and we can engage with these groups on a project-by-project basis, rather than have all of this work being done on an entirely useless process.
And so your motion is to?
The motion is to amend the report to include. Sorry. Yes, I have to have my amendment in front of me. To strike Article 7 committees, Section 8 duties of standing committees, subsection E, the Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee. And to be clear, abolishing this doesn't abolish the organizations themselves. It simply abolishes a status which does not actually grant anything tangible.
Okay, his motion as stated is to amend the report. The report is we're gonna postpone it to the next meeting.
Mhm.
So he's trying to go substantive. It seems to me his amendment to accomplish his objective would be to not postpone it and to consider it at this time. You follow me?
Yeah. So, based upon the recommendation from the parliamentarian, are you making a motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee to take up this issue now?
This was a noticed bylaws
Yes.
amendment, and the committee report includes a recommendation. I am asking to amend that recommendation, or the committee report, to include, to strike the section that I just cited.
Okay. Mr. Evans, you speaking for or against this?
I'm rising to a point of order that the motion to amend is out of order. The business is still in committee and still pending in committee. A motion to amend our report is out of order because we haven't made a report other than to report that it's postponed.
Point of information, Chris McDonald, SD6. Mr. Chairman, what was the net effect of arranging our agenda items so that any noticed bylaw changes would be moved to this section? That, I believe that is why we're doing this here, because of that request and approval. So what is your ruling based upon that moving what was a noticed bylaw change to be discussed in open session? We agreed to adjust it in the agenda to be discussed now. So what's your ruling? Are we going to discuss it now?
The basis of this was that it was brought to us by the Rules Committee Chairman. I sat down with the parliamentarian to move it just the same as we moved the resolutions into the resolution report instead of having it separate. So that is the basis of us moving it into the time period that it's in right now. Now, we can vote on this motion to amend the report, that we can take this up now, or we can continue with the report as it is. So I think that that's what the body will vote on.
So I'm understanding that you're ruling it's appropriate for us to discuss the
motion to
deletion of this
amend.
at now.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
mean,
sir.
yeah, we can discuss the motion to amend the report now.
Mr. Chairman, I reiterate my point of order and ask for a ruling.
So, stand at ease.
Okay.
You're doing great work, Brandon.
We'll come back into session. In consultation with the parliamentarian, it appears that we can, your point of order is suspended. We can, if the body votes on it. This is not about postponing the report, the amending their report. But if the body wants to vote on taking this issue up, this bylaw amendment up outside of the report of the committee, we can do that, but the body has to vote on that.
Mr. Chairman, is there currently a pending motion on the floor? I didn't hear a motion in a second. I have a motion that will solve this if we do.
So there is a motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee. It has been seconded, so the body has to vote on this, and then we will move on based upon whether or not that motion passes. Are we ready for the question on the motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee? Mr. Wiley?
Is this a vote to consider to amend it or on the amendment itself?
This is a vote this is a motion on amendment to amend the report of the Rules Committee. If this were to pass, that means that we can go back and we can take up this issue of the bylaw amendment outside of the report of the Rules Committee. No, that's what they're seeking to do.
Chris McDonald, SD6. I understand there's one question on the floor right now, and that is to take up this amendment as presented by
Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Garcia. I've seconded it. I speak in favor of it. It will allow us to discuss maintaining or dissolving the Auxiliaries Committee. I encourage you to vote in favor of considering this so we can have this discussion with all the members present. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Shaven.
Sean Cheban, SD 17. I rise in opposition to this amendment. I was the member of the Auxiliaries and Coalition Committee who testified in the Rules Committee, did so on my, really on an individual basis. The conclusion that we came to in the Rules Committee was to basically hold this for 3 months until our next quarterly meeting so that both committees can collaborate to come up with a workable solution going forward. In the Auxiliaries Committee, as currently constituted, we have a body that can get on this today, can focus on it today, and has already thought about it. To strike this body in its entirety and start from scratch would set us behind, and I think that we can get a lot done after the holidays before we meet next to propose a workable path forward. So I encourage you to stick with the original report, vote this down, and we'll talk about it again next quarter.
I have a point of order. Are we debating whether we can consider it?
What we are debating is your amendment to amend the report of the Rules Committee. Your motion is to amend the report of the Rules Committee.
So we are not debating whether we can consider that amendment, but we're debating the amendment itself.
We're debating the amendment itself. Your amendment to.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to privilege.
Yes.
Just for further explanation, so what the amendment does is strikes the word postpone from the report. That's what you're asking to do, which would then allow it to go on the floor. It's the same effect as a motion to discharge, which would then bring it to floor for immediate debate. So this would be the first pending question on the floor, is just to strike the word postpone, which will then allow us to debate on the motion. So that's all we're doing at the moment.
Okay.
3-0 Army.
It's very early. Mr. Apley? Pastor Broden? Mr. Wiley, I think you have already spoken. Mr. Waltz?
Chairman, Joe Walls, SD 18.
Speaking for or against the motion?
I'm speaking against it. This is kind of a compromise between two camps. Mr. Garcia wants to present this now and handle it, and I can appreciate that. But the committee, in all fairness, has met in person once, and it was this weekend. Our very first meeting, we simply got together, introduced ourselves, and had about 5 weeks to work on the November 3rd general election. So by postponing this, it gives us the opportunity to come up with a workable solution and not talk about what the committee has been, but what we plan for it to be going forward. And our committee is dedicated to doing that, and we've reached out to all these organizations, and I know that they would appreciate it if we had 90 more days to work on that.
I have a point of order. Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Apley?
I rise for a point of order. H. Scott Apley, SD 11. All this discussion is circling around a way not to debate and decide upon a properly submitted bylaw amendment. And that bylaw amendment was properly noticed, and it needs to be discussed. Any superseding of that through a report, whatever, is against the consideration of the bylaw. So that's my point of order. I would like the chairman to rule on that matter.
We will take up this motion to amend it to remove the word postpone from the rules report. Is there any further debate?
Can I speak in favor of considering? My previous remarks were in favor of the amendment itself. I have not spoken on the motion to amend so that we can consider my amendment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
That's what I'm saying. It's about striking the word postpone. That's what your amendment is doing to the rules report.
Yes, but that is so that we can consider it. I have not spoken on that.
You may speak in favor of it.
Okay, this is so that we can strike postpone and consider this, which, as the previous speaker said, this was a properly noticed bylaws change. It should be brought to the floor of the SREC. I thought I had what I thought was a good faith discussion with the Rules Committee about how this could be brought up. What seems to me is that this is some attempt to box in by sleight of hand to prevent a properly noticed bylaws amendment from a straight vote and from straight consideration onto the floor. When we considered this morning moving this into the Rules Committee, nobody objected on that understanding that we had discussed in the Rules Committee. And I am very upset that we have to go through all of this, ridiculous rigmarole in order to consider a properly noticed bylaws amendment.
Are we ready for the question?
Mr. Chairman, Fernando
Yes.
Trevino, SD 14.
Yes, sir, you
Speaking
recognize.
against this motion,
There have already been 3 that have spoken against this motion. Yes, sir, you're recognized. Are you speaking for?
I was speaking in favor, yes, sir. Jason Vaughn, Texas Young Republicans. I will ultimately, if we get to take the actual conversation up, I'll be speaking against, but in my opinion, we have now gone, this is our second quarterly meeting, our third full meeting, and that it's unfair for the auxiliaries that we're still in this limbo stage. We don't know, we technically exist right now until this meeting is over. We don't know if we're gonna exist after this. They're gonna have another conversation. The last 2 auxiliary and coalitions meetings have ended an hour early without any conversation between the auxiliaries and coalitions. We have not been able to get any work done. Can we please make sure, can we bring this up and decide we want to be an auxiliary? We want to do that. We want this status. But we need the RPT to get over this. We need you to the SREC to have this conversation. Vote this down from my dear friend here. I disagree with him on getting rid of it, but we need to have it. We need to be done with it.
The debate has ended. There can be no more fors or against. The question is a motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee by striking the word postpone. All those in favor of this motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee by striking the word postpone, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Nay. We will do this by standing vote. Once again, the motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee by striking the word postpone. All those in favor of the motion stand. All those against the motion to amend the report of the Rules Committee by striking the word postpone, stand. The estimation of the chair, the nays have it. The motion to amend the rules report, the report of the Rules Committee by striking the word postpone does not pass. Yes, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me just a quick privilege, I appreciate the members' comments. However, it was not something that was presented in good faith. It was not a slight. That business was left postponed with the intention of taking it back up in committee and having the discussion. We didn't have enough time to thoroughly have the discussion. One of the members, Gail, had mentioned she wanted to have a long and involved discussion about it. We chose to postpone it. It wasn't an attempt to slight you in any way. It was an attempt to allow auxiliaries and coalitions time to redefine their mission and allow us a long time to have the discussion, whether you believe that or not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wiley, you're recognized.
Yes, previously, David Wiley, SD 12, previously we had postponed the consideration of the auxiliaries report to designate the Texas Asian Republican Assembly, the Texas Federation of College Republicans, Texas Young Republicans as RPT auxiliaries, and to designate the Texas Republican Liberty Caucus as a coalition. That was presented by Pastor Broden, and we postponed that until after the presentation of the Rules Committee. I move that we consider that motion at this time. Thank you.
The motion is to consider, if you can give me those groups again. I mean, I just wanted to write it down so I can repeat the motion.
The Texas Asian Republican Assembly. The Texas Asian Republican Assembly. The Texas Federation of College Republicans.
I'm writing as fast as I can. The second one?
Texas Federation of College Republicans. The Texas Young Republicans as auxiliaries, and the Texas Republican Liberty Caucus as a coalition. They currently are listed in these manners on the state party website. They've communicated with the Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee, and they're found to be in good standing, and they've been moved to be continuing their recognition.
The motion on the floor is to recognize the Texas Asian Republican Assembly, the Texas Federation of College Republicans, and the Texas Young Republicans as auxiliaries, and the Texas Republican Liberty Caucus as a coalition.
Thank you.
You rising to speak for or against this motion?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I rise to reassert my point of order now that we're beyond the question of whether or not to postpone in the report. And I'm going to make a point of order that it is not appropriate for, a member does not need the permission of any committee, does not need to have it, consider it or postpone it or anything in order to present a bylaw amendment to this committee. The only thing that is required of an SREC member is to submit it with proper notice, and then it should be considered. So it is inappropriate. There's nothing in our bylaws that allows the Rules Committee or any member or any report of a committee to supersede a properly submitted bylaws amendment.
Stand at ease.
He's correct. We would like the Rules Committee to have a purpose, just like the Resolutions Committee has. So you can say your point is well taken. If anyone wants to make a motion to postpone at this time, that would be in order. To postpone it. Yeah. His motion is, his point of order is well taken. But that doesn't mean someone can't postpone.
In consultation with the parliamentarian, your point of order is well taken, but it does not preclude the fact that someone could make that motion to postpone it. There is a motion on the floor. It has been properly moved and seconded that the Texas Asian Republican Assembly, the Texas Federation of College Republicans, and the Texas Young Republicans be recognized as auxiliaries, and the Texas Republican Liberty Caucus as a coalition. It has been moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Point of information, I'm sorry, sir.
Yes.
I believe earlier they had actually decided to include those other auxiliaries that were here, which includes, I don't know where, which includes the Chairman's Association? They were not part of the report? They're not going to be included? Okay. All right, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. The Texas Asian Republican Assembly, the Texas Federation of College Republicans, the Texas Young Republicans are recognized as auxiliaries. The Texas Republican Liberty Caucus is recognized as a coalition. We will now move on to the legislative priorities report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I promise I will make this short. I know that it's that time of the afternoon and we're all getting kind of draggy. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Tanya Robertson, my vice chair, and all of my committee. And if my committee would please stand, that would be awesome. And I've got subcommittee chairs, Abraham George, John Kerr, Stephen Stanley, David Wiley, Mark Dorozio, and Terry Harper. So thank you all so very much. Our committee is charged with advocacy for our legislative priorities as passed by approximately 5,000 delegates at this past state convention. Some may say, well, these priorities are not really reflective of the voters in my district. However, I beg to differ. These priorities, with the exception of banning taxpayer-funded lobbying, have been on the ballot as propositions in the last two Republican primaries in 2018 and 2020 in some form. So when you think about it, these ballot propositions have made their way up from precincts to districts to state convention, and they represent the will of thousands and thousands and thousands, and actually almost 2 million Republican voters in the state of Texas. So we have a very, very clear charge to support these legislative priorities. Furthermore, these priorities reflect our party principles. So I know that I don't have to explain that to you all, but they are reasonable, they're not controversial, and we very much expect our representatives to easily pass these priorities. There are several bills that have already been filed that do match some of our priorities, but we are working on bill language for those that have not been filed yet, and we're working with certain legislators to file those bills. The other thing that we're doing is we are developing tools to help our Republicans across the state know the progress of these priorities. As you may have seen, I am writing a report weekly that is going out on our email system. Please push my reports out to your districts. Please send them to your precinct chairs, any email lists that you have. We want this information to be in the hands of our voters. Another tool that we have, I'm going to let our vice chairman, who is in charge of this particular tool, talk about it, and that is our STAT group.
Thank you, Jill. Y'all pray for me. I am technology challenged, and I'm going to try my best. And I want to give a shout out to Marie. Is Marie over here? She is helping a tremendous amount getting this up and going, and Dave Wiley. How many of you are still on fascist book Facebook? Okay, if you are you a member of our STAT group? There's a private group specifically oh gosh, it has over like 1.2 or 1,200 members in it of Texans that are concerned and want to activate and help us advance our priorities. So if you're not in that group, please hop in there. And I've been asked, and Jill's been asked, what does STAT mean? Where did that come from? And I have to be honest, I still have to look it up. So STAT means Strategic Texas Activist Team. Because we're a team, y'all, and that's the only way we're going to get this done. And not only does Jill's weekly report go out via email, it is posted on our website. Thank you, Marie. And it is then copy and pasted into our STAT group. And Marie's working with us on developing a priority-specific alert system via email and text message, y'all. We're getting up there. So with that being said, if you have any questions about where to find that group, come find me. Can we answer questions, Mr. Chairman? Yes, you can. Okay. Dion. Oh, okay. I'll come help you. I can do that. Okay. Oh, it's the Republican. If you search on Facebook, STAT, STAT, it's not coming up. It's RPT. Yes, that's it. It's a private group. Okay. Thank you.
And I would like to give credit to former Vice Chair Amy Clark, who actually came up with that STAT group for us. We are also working on another tool that is a digital guide to our legislative priorities. This will include each one of our priorities with some very short, easy talking points. And then also a resource page if people want to do a deeper dive to understand the legislative priority. And then finally, it will contain the contact information of each of our legislators and their social media info. And we're creating this guide so that you've got something to easily push out, again, to the folks in your districts. And it'll be kind of a one-stop shop for information about our priorities. We have got some other things that we're working on that I will update you on in the future, but just know that our big thrust is educating our Republican voters because it is their voices that we want to amplify to push our legislators to pass our priorities. It's going to, in order for us to get these passed, we are all going to have to work together, and we're going to have to encourage our voters and empower our voters with the information that they need to make their voice known. I want us to all be laser focused on these priorities. Please speak every chance you get on these resolutions. I've been asked probably 3 times in the last 2 weeks to speak, and that I've already had those speaking engagements. I've got a couple more coming up pretty soon. So please, every opportunity you have, whether it's at a Republican club or at your EC meetings, wherever you are, please, if you're not asked, you ask to speak on our legislative priorities, and we will all work together. Finally, I do want to thank our chairman, who has been so vocal in supporting our legislative priorities, and I really appreciate that. And I look forward to working with our vice chair and the rest of you to really work on speaking out and getting these passed. Let's do it, guys. Thank you.
I was having a discussion with one of our SREC members who is also on the Legislative Priorities Committee, and one of the things he asked, what could the SREC members do? I think it's very important that SREC members in your respective Senate districts, you start writing op-ed pieces on our legislative priorities. You start looking to get on radio and do radio interviews. If you need to, work with our communications director, Luke Twomley, who can schedule you for radio interviews looking at the most popular radio stations and drive times in your Senate districts. But we need your voice out there on radio doing op-ed pieces, and also conduct town halls within your Senate districts to keep people apprised of these legislative priorities. We will go to our special committee reports. Our first special committee report is the Engagement Committee. Ms. Alma Jackson.
in my face. Hello, everybody. Engagement. I was not able to make the first SREC meeting in Houston, but Roy Morales covered the meeting for me. I called a Zoom meeting for October 19th, and we did hold one. 6 participated out of 14 members. The discussion that we had, and it never changes, folks, engagement, which means we are to be active, talking up our platform values, and engaging. It's an action word. It's a verb. We've got to do something. Just belonging to a club is not good enough. You've got to engage others and tell them what our party's about. Issues is a great way to get them to open up, and you can feel them out, find out whether they're with us or against us. All you have to do is ask one person, what do you think of the job our president has done? Right away, you'll know whether they're with us or not. But engagement is constant, and we each have that duty to bring in more and more people into this party. We're all aware of the cheating and the fraud that goes on, which taxes us to have to induce more votes. We've got to bring them in, and we are definitely the better party. We all know that. Our meeting yesterday, we started at 1:15. We adjourned at 2:18. We had 12 in attendance out of 14 members. I had requested from each of them a short report from each member listing what they were doing in their own districts concerning engagement. And I had 7 submitted reports, and I thank you for submitting those. These reports don't have to be long, 3 sentences. Just let me know what you're doing. I also offered talking points. I work well with college Republicans. I'm working with some in San Antonio, and I've got 2 high school young men who have started up a Republican club in their high school in Hayes County? Comal. I think it's Comal. Anyway, these young men are on fire, and I'm very, very proud of them, and they told me they need talking points. I spoke at a ladies' club meeting in Bexar County not long ago, and I had a young lady who approached me, and she said, I just heard you speak, and what you just said to us, I would love to see that written up, because you've given us excellent points to talk to other college students. She says, when I try to tell them how great the Republican Party is, I don't know what to tell them. I just know it's better, but I just don't know what to tell them. And my talking points come straight out of our platform. That's our best tool to win people over, folks. It's our very best tool to have. So just remember that engagement is an action word. Belonging to clubs is not enough. It is good. It is very good to get out there and be involved, but it's better to talk up our talking points and what the values that have made America and Texas great. So I leave you with that. That's what took place in engagement. And Brandon, first slide, please. I've been given the opportunity to start up a Juan Seguin Society. I don't know how many of you know who Juan Seguin was. I had heard his name and I connected him with the Alamo, but I didn't know much of the history until our chairman asked me to do this, and I said, I better know what I'm talking about. So I did some research. Juan Seguin was born in San Antonio in 1806. He was very active in local politics. He was elected mayor of San Antonio twice. He was also the first Tejano to serve in the Republic of Texas Senate. A Tejano is a Hispanic from Texas. And I suppose most of them are born there. That makes me one, because I was born in Texas, and I'm very proud of it. He was dispatched, Juan Seguin was dispatched with a letter to Sam Houston requesting reinforcements during the Battle of the Alamo. And he fought along with the Anglos at the Battle of San Jacinto, which ended in the defeat and the capture of Santa Ana. So he is considered, and he is a Alamo defender, a hero in Texas. The man was very hardworking. He believed in freedom. He was part of Texas independence. And I suppose that is why our chairman chose that name to promote and include and bring more Hispanics in. And what I'm working on is bringing in Hispanics who are conservative in thought, people who believe in personal responsibility, that our borders must be secure, they just must be, who defend life and who naturally support our platform. I am committed to do this if this becomes an official organization. I have already had a meeting at my home, and there were 5 of us present, people who I trusted who are of Hispanic descent. And by the way, you don't have to be Hispanic to belong to this, because it's a movement to bring more Hispanics in. Our main purpose is education. We need to educate them on the difference between the parties. We all know that there are many, many, many low information voters out there. We also know that many, many people vote out of tradition. It's traditional to be a Democrat. I've even heard that from some Republicans. But they do that, and we need to educate on the true differences. And I know when I have spoken to people about what our party stands for and I gain their trust, relationships are very, very important. They have to trust you. When I gain their trust, I'm able to bring them in, and that's what our goal is going to be, is to grow this movement across the state of Texas. And there were 5 of us present when I held the first meeting, and we did a lot of discussion about where we want to go with this. We know we want it all over the state. We came up with a mission statement. We have written up objectives, goals, strategies. We are now working on bylaws to present to y'all, and I have presented a folder to our chairman on what we have done so far. And nothing is set in stone. It's still in the beginning stages. Things can change, wording can change on our mission statement. But I have also spoken to people across the state who are very, very interested in helping with this. And we're hoping to have, most people would call them chapters across the state. I would like to, well, we talked about calling them ambassadors instead of just chapter leaders, because that's what we're doing. We're being ambassadors, bringing in the Hispanics and informing them and educating them and telling them what this party is for, or what it stands for, and why they should be voting with us. So, Brandon, next slide, please. By the way, the logo that was up there, it was developed by one of the members that I have brought in, Joseph Vargas from San Angelo. This chart, Walter West sent it to me, and I hadn't seen it, but it's great, and I will be using it in presentations. There are 10 listed metropolitan areas that did very, very well for President Trump. And out of these 10, Texas has 4 of them. We've got to capitalize on that, folks. I do agree that our president had a lot to do with Hispanics waking up. And we want to make sure that we hold them and bring in more, because he has done a very great job for this country and for Texas. And if he's gone, we still want them with us. I don't think President Trump is finished, though. I thank you all for hearing me, and I wish you all a very, very great Christmas. Thank you. That's it. Question?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Lynch, you're recognized.
This is SD 19, Dr. Alma. I just wanted to tell Ms. Jackson that Juan Seguin, the reason they kept him outside the walls of the Alamo on the second battle is because he was an expert on all the courier lanes to the outside, and they needed him out there. Not only that, but we always remember the first battle, the second battle. The first battle, Juan Seguin led the battle against General Cos and General Joaquin Arredondo, and he defeated them and kicked them out of the Alamo. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alma.
Chris McDowell, SD6, point of information. May I address the speaker, sir? Alma, thank you so much for your constant work for many years on the front lines, trying to embrace our message and putting it all across Texas, especially in the Hispanic community. As you work to create Juan Seguin Society, how did you do that?
How did I do what?
How did you create the Juan Seguin Society? That's pretty amazing.
He did it.
So this is a combined effort. Okay.
He called me and he asked me to get something going.
Well, you're doing a great job. Now,
Well, thank you.
Did you have to have the official blessing of the Auxiliaries Commission or the Coalitions Committee of the Republican Party of Texas to do that?
Him.
Okay. So did you come before any body to
No,
ask
sir.
permission to do what you're doing?
No, sir.
Are you any less effective in the community for not having that?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
And let me explain, this is a concept, this is an idea, and I could not think of anyone better to champion it, but we want to make sure that the body approves of this, and that's why this is in the infant stages and it's getting organized. But as Alma said, this is something that is gaining a lot of attention, because you think about, as I said earlier, a couple of weeks ago, Barack Obama came out and attacked the Hispanic community for voting on their principles and values. We've got low-hanging fruit that should align with us. All we've got to do is show up. And lots of times people want to belong to something that is special, that is unique. And when you think about Juan Seguin and what he did and what he stood for, who would not want to be a part of an organization or society and form chapters and be ambassadors? And that's how we're going to defeat the other side.
I wanted to say one more thing. You know, personal responsibility is paramount to success. And back then in the 1800s, life was very, very difficult. When I was teaching, I remember talking to some children and telling them how difficult it was to live back in the pioneer days, and how people had to raise their own food, plant their gardens. And one little boy yelled, "Why didn't they just go to H-E-B?" I only mention that because hard work builds character. If your attitude is right, your character is built. And people back then worked very hard for Texas freedoms, and we need to keep them, folks. God bless you all.
Can I ask a couple questions? I had a couple questions for her. Jason Vaughn, Texas Young Republicans. Just wanted to see, so is Juan Seguin Society, is that going to be brought in as an auxiliary coalition, or is that going to be, and I actually, Mr. Chairman, is the 150, the first, I apologize, I can't remember the full name. Are those going to be brought in, or are those going to just exist outside the party, outside of the committee?
Well, as I stated, I want the body to make that decision. It's a concept, it's an idea, it's an initiative, but I'm not going to go out there and create something unless I have your buy-in, because if we don't have the buy-in of this body, it's not going to be successful. So right now, what we're looking is building an understanding, a mission, a vision, key tasks, an end state, so that we can keep you all updated. And I believe that by the next SREC meeting, we can bring it before the committees, we can bring it before this entire body, and see if we have your acceptance.
So so these are concepts right now that you're ultimately going to, you or at least the concept is going to be brought before the coalition and auxiliaries, or, because I'm just wondering what happens when, because Alma, you've done an amazing job, and for, I don't know the gentleman doing this one yet.
Dr. Tim Wesley.
He's going to be, what happens after their time is over? So I'm like, that's why I'm wondering how they continue doing this, because they're great work.
The thing is that this is hopefully a legacy endeavor, because like I said, this organization that we are a part of, the Republican Party of Texas, was founded by 150 black men, and that should not be forgotten.
Yes,
And as a matter of fact, one of the key things we're looking at is that there is a mural that's supposed to be painted in Galveston, Texas next Juneteenth. And that mural really does depict the history of black Republican men in the great state of Texas, and we want to be there and be a part of that mural being unveiled. So that's the type of initiatives we're looking at doing.
Really appreciate it, sir. Just
Yes.
would like to encourage that ultimately we kind of have a good system for all of these organizations.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Fred Rangel, SD 26, and it's concerning what Alma has just presented. When Tom Meckler was chairman back in, one of the things that he left in me was a statement that he said that the demographics of this country, not just the state of Texas, shows that the Hispanic population will grow beyond minority status. And in 2025, and some have said 2030, that number is quickly approaching. And as it does, Rick Figueroa, about the same time, created a program called DME, which was very successful, but it died. And I appreciate what you're doing with this, because if the Hispanics are not fertilized and worked and be able to be brought in, we need the Hispanic population to continue the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't,
we're dead.
We're dead.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate whether you have a program, but that it continue through all the means necessary, as many presented earlier, that it was our priority to grow the party one by one, but with emphasis, I would say, on Hispanics, because it becomes demographically important and for our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
Mr.
Joe
Walls.
Walls, SD 18. I just want to ask, and maybe for clarification, or maybe just to make a point, since some people have done that. Both of these organizations have accelerated really fast in developing and logo design and membership and chapters, because they had the support of a very prominent person leading that's on the SREC and the chair of the Republican Party of Texas. So for these auxiliaries and coalitions, that's why it's important to have that relationship. Just something to think about for the next 90 days.
Thank you, Mr. Waltz. Yes, sir. Stephen?
It's just a point of personal privilege. I was doing it before Dion got up there and sucked all the air out of the room. And seriously, a good friend of mine and many of y'all's had a tragedy in our family about 3 weeks ago. State Representative Stephanie Click, who is the outgoing House caucus chair, lost her daughter about 3 weeks ago. And it's been real tough on her right when the election was hitting and everything else. And but she was requesting prayer support. We've had friends on the SREC who have lost children. It is a horrific thing to go through, and we just ask for her prayer support on that.
Thank you so much. Pastor Broden, recognize.
Pastor Broden, SD 23. Just want to remind your staff that they need to collect our clickers before we leave, because I know we're getting real close to leaving time.
Here we go. No pressure, right? Hey, Evans, what's the score? Commercial, okay. We will now have the report. Yes, Ms. Witt. Elf.
On the shelf. Maggie Witt, SD8. I'm a newbie, so I don't understand all the ins and outs of, do you need to be a coalition? Do you need to be an auxiliary? Do you need to be a once again society? 2 years ago, I founded the Minority Engagement Group. I didn't ask anybody's permission. I just knew what needed to be done. And Texas is a free state, and I have the freedom to do whatever the heck I want that I figure will support GOP Republican values. And I'm going to do that regardless. So let's go for it. Whatever we need to do, and anybody who's motivated, let's go.
Yes, ma'am. We will now have Dion Starnes to give the report of the Election Integrity Special Committee.
Hey, guys. Well, thank you. We made it through. We made it through the election, and we kept Texas red. So give yourselves a hand. When I was asked to chair this committee, my first response was, are you kidding me? Right? Huge things that needed to be done. But I have to say, first of all, I want to start with what we actually accomplished as a RPT. First of all, there was cooperation between several entities. We targeted 6 major counties, areas, and recruited points of contacts in each of these areas to recruit poll watchers, election judges, alternate judges, clerks, to work with the county parties to help set up and manage war rooms to help deal with the election integrity issues that came up in those areas. The areas that we targeted were Harris, of course, Dallas, Tarrant, Travis, Bear, the Valley, and that was primarily Hidalgo and Cameron. We also had Denton and Collin participating. In those 6 counties alone, minus Denton and Collin, we know that these points of contact help to recruit and manage over 1,200 election judges. Keep in mind, this is 6 counties. Over 1,500 alternate judges, over 1,500 clerks, and over 1,400 poll watchers across the state, because that 6 counties, it wasn't just them that were participating in things. We had 120 volunteer lawyers who stepped up, took election law training, and helped in the counties across the state. They were boots on the ground to get the things done that, because guys, I know election code, but I can quote it all day long. I have no teeth, right? It took more than just being able to know the election code. And while we only have the official numbers for those 6 counties, there were other counties where people stepped up and did the same work all over the state. They were recruiting or helping to recruit election workers, volunteer lawyers, poll watchers. And let me remind you that the poll watchers, in a lot of cases around the state, were our front line of defense of knowing what was going wrong in our election. On the state election integrity phone line, we had well over 1,400 calls come through. That doesn't include the calls that we were getting on our personal cells. And I can tell you that if I'm any indication of how many calls were coming in on other people's cells, we had a whole lot more than 1,400, okay? It also doesn't take into account the email account, electionintegrity@texasgop.org. On election day itself, at the ED Command Center, which was at the RPT office, we had 20 volunteers and 12 lawyers working there at the office. The majority of those people got there before 6 a.m., just like the election workers, and they were there until well after midnight, downtown Austin. And some people made us have escorts down to the parking lot, just saying, because it was so late. I really want to take a moment to thank the RPT staff, especially Mitch Carney, Brandon Moore, and Jen Hall for all the additional hours and effort that they gave above and beyond their normal duties during this election cycle. So just because an election cycle happens, guys, they still have their normal duties. They still have the work that they have to get done. And let me tell you, there were countless times that those people picked up my phone calls at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate them. Now, I get asked a lot, what were some of the issues that we faced? And I want to kind of caveat this. What we saw a lot of was that it would start in one county, especially Harris, and then it would pop up in the other counties, right? It was like everybody was kind of reading from a script. Okay, let's kind of test the waters here and let's see if we can get away with it. And if we can, we're going to try it over here in these other counties. Some of the issues, I'm just going to kind of give an overview. We had issues with machines. Sometimes it was a machine themselves. Sometimes it was personnel not using the correct procedures. We had 20,000 mail-in ballots in one county that were not scannable. And the process when they started to initially remark and duplicate those ballots, one of the most disturbing issues with the machines had to do with Dallas County, where the judges were unable to reconcile, and in an attempt to make that happen, discovered that the printed list that they were trying to use to reconcile and the poll pad list of the voters didn't match. Okay? It was an equipment issue. Nobody agrees as to what aspect of the equipment it was an issue with. ES&S said it was a poll pads said it was ES&S. There were a lot of unhappy people in Dallas County with that. Both Republicans and Democrats, as one of our Dallas SREC is there to testify to. We had issues with people voting limited ballots in multiple counties. There were issues with people showing to have voted twice. Sometimes this was due to human error in reporting, but not always. We had problems with assistance to voters. One of those situations was very public with the Veritas video. How many of y'all saw that? All right? Okay, Ken Paxton made a statement about it. But the problem is while it's been recorded once and it got there out in the media, this is a pervasive issue that rarely gets a lot of attention. For instance, in the law, you can assist as many people as you want, but you can only witness one outside the household, which makes absolutely no sense. This is a problem, especially in nursing homes. Talk about someone exercising undue influence over a voter. They control every aspect of that person's life. Can you imagine what they could do if they wanted to make sure that that voter voted the way that they wanted them to? Mail-in ballots. Too many issues to actually go through, but some of the big ones, cancellation process. This was in both large and small counties. I mean, little bitty counties, it's doing incorrectly and inconsistently. The ballots aren't canceled, they're not surrendered, people are voted regularly instead of provisionally. Code wasn't followed. Some people say it's got ambiguity. I think that there's a difference of opinion there. We had issues in the EVBB, Early Voting Ballot Board. There was issues with the curing process, staff of elections department going door to door to cure the ballots instead of people having to come in. There was no consistent training for the EVBB and the central count, one of the most important positions for elections. And don't even get me started with drive-through voting and expanded curbside voting. So, yeah. We had a whole lot of county chairs that either A, didn't know their statutory duties, or B, they were blocked from doing those duties by their election administrator or their county clerk. Oh, don't worry about it. We got this. We've done the same thing forever. Just go ahead and sit down and be quiet, right? And some of these county chairs, especially if they're new, they sit down and were quiet because they didn't know what else to do, right? Obstruction of poll watchers, which I might add is a Class A misdemeanor, guys. It was huge across the state. County and DA county judge inserted themselves into the election process uninvited to the point that they sent armed investigators into the polling locations and circumvented the EA's office. Right? I mean, that's against code, and yet it continually happened. Who is going to go against the DA when he's the one that should be filing the charges, right? He's the one doing the illegal activity. There were at least 2 instances of violence that I know of by an election judge and Democrat alternate judge, and there were a whole lot of bullying of the Republican election workers. I know in Denton County we were getting emails daily from the Democrats in the polling locations, and they all had the same verbiage across the board. Again, going by scripts. That's just an overview of some of the issues that we experienced, and a lot of these issues have legislative fixes. So while election integrity is the #1 issue for our legislative priorities, it's very limited in the scope, right? It's very specific about what we passed in the convention. And we feel like there are a number of areas that need attention, and they fall under 3 main categories. The #1 issue is in the legislative priority, and that is voter roll cleanup. We have got to find a way to make sure that this happens. This is also a part of the charge, remember, of the legislative priority, and working with Tanya on that. Mail-in ballots, multiple issues, multiple areas of the code, and then the biggest one, we can file affidavits all day long. But if there's no penalty or there's no enforcement or nobody's willing to take that on, then we're not going to get anywhere with it, right? So we need to address that in legislation. So I did a cursory search of the TLO, and there have been close to 200 bills that have already been filed that are election related. That's as of Wednesday, 200. But there are a ton of those that are horrific bills. Horrific. Examples include universal mail-in ballots. How many of you want universal mail-in ballots? How many of you would like to do away with mail-in ballots? That would be me. Okay. Bringing back straight party voting straight party voting. Because of this, it is going to be almost an impossibility to keep up with this. So we have started a working group who will be dedicated to tracking these bills to see what we need to support and address the issues that we directly experienced and those which go against our principles and we need to defeat. We will be putting out information if they make it out of committee or if we need testimony from the SREC. One of the other issues that's been identified is the fact that we gear up for an election, we get geared down after it's over, And then 3 or 4 months before the election, we're gearing back up again. But guess what, guys? The Democrats are not stopping 24/7. In one county, I got word that the county judge, who is a Democrat, has ordered 15,000 mail or voter registration applications be sent to FEMA, to his Federal Emergency Management. So why? Turns out they are giving a registration, a voter registration card to everybody who gets a COVID test. Okay? I heard in another, once I heard that one, I started doing some research, and somebody else told me that in their county, they have them and they are giving them to everyone who gets chips or any kind of welfare. Right? They're just handing them out, right? Not asked. So we have got to stay on the ball. Therefore, well, let me back up. We have a lot of elections. Across the state, we had runoff elections after the November election for city council, right? We have, in my own district, we have the runoff for SD 30 Senate. We had nonpartisan races in the spring. There's a lot of avenues that give us the opportunity to speak into and hone our processes, right? Therefore, we have started a working group that will be considering what processes need to be put in place on a consistent basis moving forward, not gearing up, gearing down, gearing up again. Hopefully, we will be on a steady pace. They will be making that recommendation, hopefully, at the next SREC meeting. And lastly, one of the long-term goals of this committee is to facilitate election integrity is training. Training of county chairs, the EVBB, the poll watchers, all positions relating to the facilitation of an election. So therefore, a final working group has been formed to work on training avenues, working with other groups such as Party Org. Susan, they'll be contacting you, TRCCA, where this aspect might be a common goal to make a recommendation on training, not just for our county chairs. Yeah, they need some training, but all aspects of an election. We have got to make sure, whether it's voters, whether it's election judges, whether it's EVBB, there's no consistent training for EVBB or Central Crowd across the state. None. And it's kind of willy-nilly, and it needs to have a uniform standard implied. One last thought, election integrity is not a cyclical issue. You realize that, right? We get geared up, we got all excited, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but it's not cyclical. It's something that we need to be consistently working on every day, every week, every month. We need to make sure that we are ensuring the veracity of our elections, because without confidence in this process, there is not going to be a peaceful transfer of power, guys. It is incredibly important and one of our greatest rights. We do not need to be playing defense either. We need to be looking ahead to the future, making sure what we are prepared, what we need to be prepared and armed for the fight. So if y'all have input, I would love to hear it. Please feel free to email me or any of the other committee members. And with that, I would like every one of our election integrity committee members to please stand. Thank y'all. And with that, I'll take questions.
Tom Novus, SD7. You talked about a working group for legislative priorities.
It's not legislative priorities. It is legislation in regards to what we saw that would deal with the issues that we experienced firsthand during this election.
Okay. So are you working with the legislative priorities working group as well?
In some of it, yes. So Tanya and I have already been working and talking together on the things that we know that we work together on, voter roll cleanup. And then the other stuff, you know, we have spoken about and
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey there, Robin Armstrong, National Committee Man. So nationally, I was on the Election Integrity Committee for the RNC, and we talked about voter roll cleanup, and that's something that it's national law that the voter rolls are supposed to be cleaned up.
It is.
So we've talked about bringing lawsuits against counties that do not have voter rolls that are cleaned, and
Yeah.
like even Republican counties potentially, and being able to use that precedent to encourage other counties all around the country to do that, because that's a part of national law which people don't talk about at all. So they're supposed to have voter rolls clean all over the country.
They are, you're right. One of the problems, and this was brought out, I think, in 2019, is that in Texas, the way that things are set up, it is very local control, which as Republicans we tend to like, right? But there's no accountability, no enforcement on that kind of a thing. And so I know that one of the bills that's been filed, I believe it's 329 by Briscoe Kane, it's looking to put it at a statewide agency, right? It's looking to put voter registration. There's only one state agency that actually has all of the databases to check felonies and citizenship and addresses and all of that, and that's the DPS. And most people don't like the DPS. They don't have a very good reputation as far as administrative. So we've tossed around several different ideas about how we could help to facilitate that, and anything, but it is.
Well, there's a potential lawsuit that may come from an outside lawyer. That's what I'm saying, to a Republican county saying your voter rolls need to be cleaned, and so because we've actually kicked that around as a potential to force everyone to do it. So I'll talk with you about that.
Yes, I would
I can
love
put you
to.
in
Yes,
contact with the people who are talking about that. So
that would help tremendously. Okay, thank you. Chris? No? Okay. Any other questions? Am I free? With that, I cede back the rest of my. Oh wait, we got one.
I don't have a question, but I've got to just pay a little, say something about Dion. Working on this committee, she spent countless hours. Every time I talked to her on the phone, she was either on her way to Austin, just getting to Austin, in Austin, on the road back, or getting home from Austin. And she spent countless hours working on elections integrity from the last SREC meeting all the way through election until now. And she's been with lawyers. I mean, I don't know what all she hasn't done, but she's done just about all of it. And she doesn't wear the suit, but she's a superwoman.
Thank you. And with that, I will cede back the rest of my time.
We will now move to unfinished business and general orders. The only unfinished business that we have is to recognize a new county chair, his reappointment, that is Mr. Jerry Blankenship in San Saba County. We will now move to new business.
Mr. Chairman, Mark
Yes, sir.
DeRazio, SD 25. And I need a motion to suspend to consider a resolution to the United States Supreme Court, to Pennsylvania, to Michigan, to Wisconsin, and to Georgia.
There's been a motion, it has been seconded for a resolution that is outside of the resolution committee. It is addressing the Supreme Court and the decision that was made on the lawsuit from Texas and 18 other states. Do you want to read the resolution? Does everyone have it in their packet? Oh, suspend the rules. I'm sorry. I'll do more push-ups. Steve just told me that Navy scored a touchdown. That has me upset. Oh, good. Okay. So the motion is on the floor to hear a resolution. We have to suspend the rules to hear a resolution on the Supreme Court and their decision against the Texas lawsuit. It has been moved, it has been seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The rules have been suspended so that we can hear this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the defending the integrity of our election. Whereas the Republican Party of Texas condemns the moral cowardice of the United States Supreme Court in failing to accept the original jurisdiction of a suit by one state against another, which is expressly allowed by the United States Constitution. And whereas the United States Supreme Court ruled that it would not hear the case because the state of Texas lacked standing. And whereas the Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of the arguments, and whereas the Supreme Court refused its responsibility to hear a case allowed under the Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Republican Party of Texas calls on the state legislatures of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Michigan to convene and to appoint their electors in accordance with the true vote of the people. Therefore be it further resolved, the Republican Party of Texas thanks Attorney General Ken Paxton for fighting for fair and honest elections. And therefore be it further resolved, the copy of this resolution be sent to the state legislatures of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Michigan, and Texas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In speaking to this resolution, I feel that it's very important because our state, Texas, is the last bastion of freedom in the United States. And the entire United States and the whole world looks at Texas. I've done missionary work on other parts of the world and have been in the grinding poverty because of the rules and the regulations that are under those people, that they cannot even help themselves, and the fruits of their labors are given to the people who have and have not. And it's our Constitution and our form of government that allows people to lift themselves out of those depths of despair and into a wonderful, satisfying life. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I move for the adoption of this motion. Thank you.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any debate on this motion? Are you for or against this motion?
Chris McDonald, SG6, rising to amend the the resolution that's on the floor. I'd worked with the team in crafting this. I think, unfortunately, Mr. Durazio, who laid it out, didn't get the last update. The last update did not contain any thanks to Senator General Paxton, and therefore I move that that be stricken, as there was no consensus on that. And I'll speak to that being stricken because of the fact that the state of Texas was as guilty as many others who engaged in these, and Paxton waited till the very end to do this. So I move that that section be stricken.
Is there a second to that amendment? Vote. Yes. There is an amendment to the resolution that is on the floor to strike Attorney General Ken Paxton from this resolution. Is there any debate on this amendment?
I'd like to speak in favor, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Pro SD4. We need to fix our own house first. I don't believe General Paxton has even attempted that. I haven't seen anything yet. Maybe he's doing it behind the scenes. But I think, yes, we need to strike this just to make sure we're working on our house first, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stanley? You
Stephen
speaking
Stanley, SD2. Just a point of information.
for or against? Okay.
Just a point of information. I got some information. The SCOTUS denial was not an opinion. It was denied for improper filing under Article 3 of the Constitution. Justice Alito alluded to the mistake, and Justice Thomas basically said, fix it, and we will hear it. Pay attention, words matter. If ratified correctly, or refiled correctly as a motion of complaint under Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution, it would have standing in the Supreme Court. So that may be one of the things Attorney General Paxton is working on right now.
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Deborah Kelting,
Yes.
5 SD7, and I want to second the motion from Chris McDonald. We've been drafting this, and if anything, maybe leave it out, but it's you know, the plan is to give it to Ted Cruz, who's basically been stepping up for Texas and pulling all this together. So I second his motion.
Is there any further debate on this amendment? We will stand by. Hearing no further debate, there is an amendment on the floor to the resolution to strike the mention. Yeah, voting on the amendment, yeah. Do you have to do push-ups? Okay. There's an amendment on the floor to the resolution that will strike the words of Attorney General Ken Paxton from the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? In the eyes of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment to the resolution is adopted. Any further debate on the resolution? We'll wait and make sure that everyone has their electronic voting device. Does every SREC voting member have their electronic voting device? Who doesn't? Raise your hand, please. If you do not have one, raise your hand. Are we ready to open the voting? You ready for the voting to be open? The voting is now open. Who are we missing for voting? Mr. Brooks has left. Okay. Anyone else? The voting will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The voting is closed. There are 49 yeas, 8 nays, and 3 abstains. The resolution passes. Yes, Mr. Bro.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move for the chair to create an ad hoc committee to execute the chair's priority over election integrity.
Election integrity? No.
Oh, executive, I'm sorry, my bad.
It's a great end of the day. Oh, and you dropped your weapon? Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, poor weapon retention is not to be tolerated. No. Law shield? Remind me, Mr. Chairman, executive overreach.
There's been a motion and a second. Ms. Starnes, are you?
Not on this.
Okay. What Mr. Bro is bringing forward and what Ms. Glover has seconded, it relates to the exact issue that was just brought up, is that we do have some issues within our own state of Texas with the executive overreach. A lot of the things that were mentioned in the Texas lawsuit against Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin have happened here. And as a matter of fact, our own Texas State Supreme Court did not take up the issue of some executive overreach issues. So I have spoken with Chairman Glover with legislative priorities to bring it before the body that we should look at this and include this as one of our legislative priorities, executive overreach. I know that Representative Tony Tenderholt has already drafted several pieces of legislation on this issue. So the motion is before the body to take up executive overreach, as another one of our legislative priorities and to establish a committee that will work with the Legislative Affairs Committee on this issue. Yes, sir, Mr. Patrick.
Yeah, I was just speaking for this. We talked about this a little bit, or it came up during legislative priorities, and because of the way our rules are written, we can't actually put it in legislative priorities. That's against the rules, so we need to create a different, separate committee just to focus on this one issue. So that's the reason for the creation of the committee, is we need a place to put it other than legislative priorities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Yes, sir, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chairman, sadly still 0-3 Army. I rise in support of this motion. Mr. Patrick is right. Our state party rules say we can't have more than 8. We've all, I think, taken a beating from the delegation, from the delegates, saying SREC just runs away and does their own thing and doesn't pay attention to the delegation. So while preserving the will of the delegation and the legislative priorities that were drafted there, this ad hoc committee will allow us to focus on one of your priorities, and I am in support of this.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Pastor Broden.
Pastor Broden, SD 23. Just a question. What is the composition of the ad hoc committee? Who would be on that committee?
It's my discretion, and I'll put Mr. Bro in charge of it as long as he doesn't drop his weapon anymore. Yes, sir, Mr. Garcia, you speaking for or against?
Against.
Okay.
Rolando Garcia, SD 15. I mean, it feels like we are doing this is a technicality to get around the fact that we can't add a 9th priority. And, obviously people are upset that we need to respect the will of the convention delegates. They voted and they selected 8 priorities. And, we all agree, well, it's not up to us to add a 9th. But this seems like an end run around against, maybe we're not violating the letter, but it feels like we're violating the spirit. And I say this as someone who was very disappointed that executive overreach did not make the top 8. I was very disappointed. That was very important to me. But it feels like we're setting a precedent to where whenever, the convention chooses 8 priorities or however many they choose, and then we set up ad hoc committees for our own priorities. Even though they're important, it feels like we're doing an end run around the convention.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Ms. Robertson?
Yes, sir. Tanya Robertson, SD 11, point of information. What do our bylaws state about the chairman's creating ad hoc committees and presenting charges to those ad hoc committees?
Stand at ease.
Special committees, which is what this is, charge membership, are still subject to confirmation of the SRC or the officials committee.
This is the bylaws coming out of Article 7, Section 9, other committees. Additional standing or special committees, which an ad hoc committee is, may be created by the chairman or the SREC. If created by the chairman, standing committees' charge and membership shall be subject to the confirmation by the SREC, while special committees, or ad hoc, charge and membership shall be subject to the confirmation by the SREC or officials committee.
Thank you, sir.
Warren Norwood, SD 10. I stand in favor of this new ad hoc committee. I do hear the criticism that it seems as though we're getting around what we had through our official procedure. However, that was also many months ago. And just like we were told it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, we're now at about 10 months and people are going bankrupt. And it's a big deal. So, what's that? Yeah, we've learned a lot, but we seem to act as though we haven't learned a lot. And so things change as we go along. That's why we have this power to do that. So I would encourage us to continue to go down that path.
Thank you, Mr. Norwood. Is there any further debate? Are you ready for the question? The question before the body is to establish an ad hoc committee on the issue of executive overreach as we go into the 87th legislative session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any other new business other than what I'm about? Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, Dion Starnes, SD30. It was brought to my attention yesterday that there was an SREC member who had requested and thought she was on the Election Integrity Committee. She would like to be added to that committee. I have no objection, so I move that we add Marion Stanko to Election Integrity Committee.
Any second? It has been moved and seconded that we add Marion Stanko to the Election Integrity Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Ms. Stanko is added to the Election Integrity Committee.
Mr. Chairman, request for information.
Yes, sir.
How will you select the members of the special committee we just created?
First, I will assign Mr. Bro to head up that committee, and I will leave it up to Mr. Bro to work with our Legislative Priorities Committee to make sure that we have the appropriate people on that ad hoc committee. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes, National Committeeman Armstrong.
Mr. Chairman, so
Yes, sir.
tomorrow is my 23rd wedding anniversary.
Oh!
I tell you, I've been dealing with that woman for 23 years. I'm just kidding, just kidding. I'd like for all y'all to send her a text message, happy anniversary. How about that? She would really appreciate that, or she might be really angry at that. We'll find out.
Got to give us the phone number.
832.
Stand by.
832.
832.
561.
561.
1658.
1658.
And her name is Martha.
Martha, as in Washington.
A motion to adjourn? Is that in?
No,
appropriate?
stand by, not
appropriate.
yet.
Sorry.
Not yet. To the SREC body, as you know, our General Counsel, Wade Emmert, has stepped down out of his position effective the November election. I'd like to make the motion to the body that we elevate our Assistant General Counsel, Susanna Dokapil, to be the General Counsel of the Republican Party of Texas. It has been moved and seconded that Susanna Dokapil be the General Counsel of the Republican Party of Texas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Susanna Dokapil is now the General Counsel of the Republican Party of Texas. And I would like to present Ms. Rachel Hooper to be the Assistant General Counsel to backfill Susanna Dokapil. Ms. Rachel Hooper, will you please come and introduce yourself 2 to 3 minutes to the body so that they know who you are and your background and your qualifications.
Good afternoon. Is Army still winning? Okay, great. Good. My name is Rachel Hooper, and I am a precinct chair in Harris County. I was an assistant district attorney in Harris County for 12 years. I was just elected to the partnership of Baker Hostetler. It's a national law firm. So I'm a practicing trial lawyer in Houston, Texas. I'm a lifelong Republican. I grew up in Nassau Bay, which is across the street from the Johnson Space Center in Houston. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about my skills, my ability as a lawyer. I have tried, over 100 cases as a lawyer. And prior to practicing at the DA's office, I also served at the Tribunal for the Former Yugoslavia in The Hague. So I have a lot of legal experience internationally and in Harris County and in Texas, and nationally as well. I've tried cases in Denver. I've tried cases in Ohio. I'm really happy to be here, really happy to meet you, and happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
The next order of business is announcements. Now the assistant. The assistant too? Okay. All right. Motion, is there a motion to accept not Susanna. Rachel Hoop?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All right. There's a motion on the floor to accept Rachel Hooper as our Assistant General Counsel of the Republican Party of Texas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Ms. Rachel Hooper is now the Assistant General Counsel of the Republican Party of Texas. Yes, sir, Mr. Vaughn.
Just wanted to invite everyone to join us, those of you that are staying the night. The Texas Young Republicans are doing a block walk today. They're doing another one tomorrow for Jennifer Verdon and Mackenzie Kelly to make sure that there is at least one conservative voice on the Austin City Council and to continue to back the blue. And also thank you to all of those that came to our Cabo party last night. And as I said last night, the greatest thing to happen to Austin recently is Mayor Steve Adler. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoy your next trip to Cabo.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Announcements. The next SREC quarterly meeting shall be held the 26th through the 27th of 2021. I'd like to put it before the body. March 26th through 27, 2021. I'd like to put it before the body. I believe that we should capitalize on the success that we saw in the Rio Grande Valley, and I would like the body to approve us having our next SREC meeting in the Rio Grande Valley. Is there a second? Does the body agree with the next SREC quarterly meeting, March 26 through 27 of 2021, to be held in Laredo, Texas? It has been moved and it has been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Our next quarterly meeting will be in Laredo, Texas. Is there a motion to adjourn?
One quick item. I'd like to pay homage real quickly to a group of Tennessee volunteers that came to Texas to fight in the Alamo, and also thank you for coming as a Tennessee volunteer to Texas to fight for the liberty of Texans. But next weekend, we've got a group of Texans going back to Tennessee.
Here we go.
For a football game, Giggle Maggies.
Yeah, okay. It's easy to beat a team when they're down. There has been a motion to adjourn. It has been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? God bless you and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Please turn your clickers in, your electronic clickers. Please turn them in.
I think I've got 4.
My husband's here, and he's never thanked for putting all the signs out for candidates in Hayes County, and I bet he'd love one of your hands. Can I sit up here? No, you're kidding.
I wish I would. You know what? I gave Terry 3.
Okay, let me tell him.
Tell Terry to.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.